If you put $1 into a machine and it gives you more than $1 out, how many dollars should you put in the machine?
Yeah.
Unlimited, right? Unlimited.
As many as you can borrow.
As many as you possibly can,
yeah.
right? Until you need more people, to help you hold your dollars, or you need a bigger vehicle, you need a bigger space, right? Or you need to expand hours to put more dollars in more frequently, right?
Yes.
So that's the whole entire premise, is that you need to first and foremost understand that basic framework of what is your return on ad spend break-even point.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
At Genesis, we help successful chiropractors implement spinal decompression with a fully turnkey system that handles everything from marketing and new patient generation to systems, protocols, and ongoing support. The result? Massive value for your practice and life-changing outcomes for your patients, all without drugs or surgery. This is the next evolution in chiropractic care. Welcome to Genesis.
What's up, Remarkables? Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast, chiropractic's #1 business podcast. We got an extra special guest here today. I'm excited to bring one of our awesome partners on a couple ways, a couple levels, a partner in our Remarkable Money program, an awesome TRP alumni, and just a great friend of the Remarkable practice and of me personally, Dr. Josiah Fitzsimmons. You've probably heard his name before, especially now more than ever with his program, his product, his service, Lucro. So we're going to hear more about that today because I like to say the language of business is accounting. And if you don't speak accounting, you do not understand your business. We're going to change that. For those of you who are rolling your eyes right now, we're going to change that for you so you become fluent in your business, because to grow your business, you need to know your business. Dr. Josiah, psyched for this conversation today, buddy. What's happening?
I love it. Thanks for having me. That's a huge tenet of my success, is understanding structure. I know we've talked about that a lot, and that's something that TRP does such a great job. And I think you've led the way for the profession in styling the chiropractic operating system. No matter how you want to grow, no matter what you want to achieve, you need to have the proper structure, KPIs, and accountability to get to the next level.
Yeah, man, I love it. So you're a qualified guy to have this conversation. We're going to have a money conversation today, right? So, at the end of the day, no money, no mission, our spirit around that. So none of us are voluntarily running a nonprofit organization, but man, there's all kinds of those around chiropractic. And now that you've got Lucro, you guys are in their books. In fact, you're creating their books for them, doing their books for them. So you get to see the underbelly of all of these businesses. I say it all the time, is most chiropractors don't lay awake at night worrying about their practice. They lay awake at night worrying about their business. So we're going to have a business conversation today. We're going to go across all 5 domains. We're going to talk about what do we see? What are the key things in each of the 5 domains that it's these are blind spots, or these would be key elements that if you're going to get to one piece, one constraint of the business to address, slay this dragon, get this right, and remove the interference to what your business is designed to do, which is to expand, to grow, right? So I'm excited for this conversation. We're going to get into it. But you know what? Let's give you some street chops here. Why don't you tell them your story? Who are you? Where you come from? What's your chiropractic journey been like? I love when you talk about your experience with Remarkable Practice. Of course, I love to hear that part of the story. But I'm going to give you permission to brag here a little bit, because you got one of the biggest practices in the world. What a privilege to be part of that journey. And that gives you credibility with this group of people. It's what you're talking about. We learn a lot from our successes, but we learn so much more from our failures. We've walked this road together. Let's talk a little bit about your experience in business, in practice. Let's set the table before we eat.
Absolutely. I love it. Now, appreciate it. Thank you for the kind introduction. But honestly, I want to go all the way back to 3rd grade. I mean, that's where I really learned my work ethic. My family grew up very low income. Nicest car we had was $500. I would literally steal pop cans from my neighbor's trash to turn in for nickels in Iowa. I don't know if they have that in all states, that you can turn in pop cans. We'd go on walks, and my grandpa would say, "I see a nickel," and it would be a pop can on the side of the road that we would want to go turn in to the local recycler. And so I started waking up at 2:30 a.m. every morning in 3rd grade to help deliver newspapers and help the family pay the bills. And that's really how I delivered and achieve the work ethic that I did. But then when I got to chiropractic school, I'm one of 9 kids. I was super, super competitive. I found that there's all these different techniques. And I said, well, what's the best technique? And everyone said, well, whatever you love to do, it's up to, whatever your philosophy is. And I was like, man, that's not how science works. Something's got to be the best, and then same thing with business. I'm like, well, how do you run the best business? And it's, that's totally up to you. And I'm like, there's got to be best business practices. So I became on a mission very quickly in chiropractic school. I was president of 6 different clubs, while I was in school, and I ended up going to over 50 different clinics while I was a student in chiropractic school to try and learn and understand how to run a successful clinic. And so before I opened, just 4 months after graduating from Palmer, I already had over 400 prepaid appointments scheduled on my books. And so that allowed me to do over $1.2 million my first year in practice. Right out of school, paid off all my student loans, within a few months after opening my clinic. And I took out maximum loans all the way through. And so then second year in practice, did over $2 million. Third year in practice was COVID. And so as everyone else had more time on their hands, and I thought, okay, this is my opportunity to go back into deep learning mode. I now need to find all the other top clinics in the country that are doing way more than $2 million that I can learn and understand and study and grow from. Well, very unfortunate at that point that I couldn't find very many clinics in the country that were bigger than me. Only 2 years out of school, I was frustrated. I said, we have the greatest healthcare product in the world. Who's getting more miracles in our practices than chiropractic clinics? I always tell people it's Jesus and chiropractors, top miracle workers in the history of the world. If that's the case, and we do have the best healthcare product in the history of the world, then how come there's such small utilization? How come the success in our profession is so limited? And I became very frustrated, with that. And I said, there has to be a better way. There's these other businesses out there that are selling far inferior products and services that are making people sick, or that are absolutely useless, just liabilities that people are purchasing, and spending their credit card on. Why are they not doing that doing a much better job of investing in their health? And so I started studying other businesses, and I found that they have much better structure to grow and scale organization, key performance indicators, core values, primary purposes, primary skills for all their team members. And they had this entire architectural structure of how to scale a business from any level to the next level, and say, holy cow, I got to figure out how to do this. And then thankfully I found this dude named Steven Franson who had already taken that exact model and applied it to the chiropractic industry and said, okay, I got to just join the remarkable practice, implement the chiropractic operating system into my own very clinic. And so the next year, that was one of the key parts of our growth, to then go from 2 million to 5.5 million in only 1,800 square foot clinic. Okay. And so that was just a few years ago. Now just finished 7th year in practice, just about $7 million in one location. And so as I've scaled along this way, doctors have always said, what are you doing? How does this work? Can you help me? What are you doing differently than me in my clinic? And so fundamentally, I would always ask them, well, just tell me about your numbers. I don't want to give a generalized answer. I want to help you. I've had doctors offer me $10,000 for a phone call. And I said, you don't need to pay me anything. Just I'll hop on a call with you. How can I help you? Like, I want to genuinely help this profession. I've already made more money than I ever thought I would, growing up. Yep. With where I came from. And so I always started back with asking people their numbers, and nobody knew their numbers. No one I've talked to over the years, such a small percentage of them actually knew what their numbers were. That's and the few percent that did, maybe 5% that did, said, what do I do with them? Is that the right amount? Should I spend more? Should I spend less? What action should I take? And so I realized, even more than knowing your numbers, that's only 1% of the value. 99% of the value is actually knowing what to do with your numbers. And so that was really the whole premise of launching Lucro. Just last year, we do bookkeeping for chiropractors every single week. And then we give a financial analysis report every single month of what action steps they can actually take with their numbers. So now we have close to 500 clinics. And now we have almost $500 million in annual clinic revenue. And my big purpose for the profession is to start giving back. We're going to start coming out in 2026 with a white paper report of the financial position of the chiropractic profession. What's working, what's not working, what are the top performers doing, who are they utilizing, what organizations are they utilizing for all the different services to scale a successful business and impact the world. Because like I said earlier, if we do have the greatest healthcare product in the world and we have these amazing testimonials all the time, then the biggest missing link is understanding how to scale and run that business better and more profitably.
That's exactly right. Well, now all our listeners are listening right now, and let me just settle you down. This is not going to be a Lucro commercial. This is about qualifying the opinions of two experts. Okay. So you're talking to two guys who are, like I said, we are in the kitchen. We see the underbellies of between the two of us over 1,000 practices, right? So we're talking about historically thousands of practices that we've looked at both the operational metrics and the financial metrics. So everybody has to understand those are two different things, right? Operational metrics are the things that everybody talks about. Hey, how many new patients, what your conversion rate is, what's your stick rate, PVA, CVA, right? Those are all operational metrics, right? Financial metrics are different. That's when we start talking about revenue growth. We start talking about gross profit and margin. We start talking about revenue per employee ratios, right? So we get into the kitchen of these businesses and we understand what does a successful practice look like? And like, what is the DNA of a successful practice? Like, you have to know what you should be measuring, what those KPIs are, what those KPIs mean. How do you influence those KPIs, right? And how do they interrelate, right? So for us looking at these metrics, guys, it's like looking at the matrix, right? So when the metrics become the matrix, it starts telling you a story, right? So your business is talking to you. The question is do you speak the language? Do you understand? Your business wants to have a conversation with you. So we are going to help you interpret your business, what your business is saying to you, right? Or at least start to teach you the alphabet, even if we can't teach you all the words and all the language here on this podcast. But you know what? We've got our heads together. We're going to go across the 5 domains and we're going to pick just one of, let's call it a talking point in each of the 5 domains to give you guys just a running start. If you get one of these fixed, man, you're going to grow your practice 20%. You get 2 of these, 3 of these, 5 of these nailed, and you're going to see your practice double, right? So ultimately, guys, literally a double. Like if you can, I will hang my hat on that. If you can right size each of these numbers that we're going to go through, you will see a doubling, if not more, of your business, and especially, and most importantly, your profit. Listen, guys, you're listening to 2 very successful business people who have had multiple businesses, and a successful business requires 4 things: a purpose, a product, people, and profit, right? So if you think about chiropractic, man, do we have an incredible purpose, right? We have the second most important purpose in the world, right? So we
Amen.
have a spectacular purpose, right? So number 2, product. Oh my gosh, you name a better product in the marketplace than the simple and elegant solution of the chiropractic adjustment, right? So we have an incredible product, which is, by the way, almost infinitely scalable, right? So number 3, people. My favorite people in the world are chiropractors. We have 7 chiropractors in my family. I married my chiropractor. Both her sisters are chiropractors. Both were married to chiropractors. My brother's married to a chiropractor. I'm raising at least 1 more chiropractor. My kids are surrounded by chiropractors. They thought everyone was a chiropractor until they turned 12, I think. I love chiropractors. I spend an inordinate amount of time with chiropractors and chiropractic teams. We have the best people in the world, right? So
No doubt.
now the 4th one is profit. The problem with chiropractic is the 4th one is profitability, right? So we have got to get this right. We have to get the money right. Dr. Josiah, I know your heart's the same as mine. No money, no mission, right? So we've got to make sure that this is like for chiropractic to take its rightful position. If we're truly going to take part in making America healthy again, how do you make America healthy again? I'll tell you what, chiropractic has a seat at the table. What are we going to do with that seat, right? What are we going to do? What are we going to say? We need to get this profit picture right so that we're not undercapitalized in every worthwhile initiative that I see happening in chiropractic.
Amen. I mean, I love it. You're so spot on with the purpose, the passion, the people, the product. I mean, if we're the top in all those areas, then what's the missing link is that we just got to create awareness. We got to get the message out of what we deliver, the greatness, within every human body that needs to be unlocked by removing nerve interference. And how can we do a better job of that? We have to run successful businesses first and foremost. And that's literally what Lucro means is profit in Italian. That's the whole goal, is to help clinics be more successful so they can be more on purpose, have a bigger impact on their communities, just like the BJ Palmer talks about with the big idea.
That's exactly right. So that profit, it's going to free you up to invest in your business. So I want everybody to hear that. When you hear us talking about profit, it's not just about having a big life, what we call the remarkable life, which I'm a massive advocate for. I think we have the second most important message in town. We should be the second most highly paid person in town. That's the question. Are you, right? So you should be wildly successful, right? So, but there should be enough profit that's generated by your business that you're able to invest. Everybody underline that word, invest in the marketing that you'll need to do to increase your reach. Are you a mission-driven, on-purpose chiropractor? You should be looking to reach more people. That's what marketing means, guys. Getting out to the marketplace, increasing your impact, right? So that takes money. You have to have the capital to invest in marketing so that you can reach more people, right? You have to have the capital to build the team that will serve those people. Most people are so understaffed. Either they don't have the A players that they need, or they just don't have the manpower. So everybody's overwhelmed. So everybody's pumping the brakes. You need to have the money to invest in building the team that can serve the next iteration of your business to pull that business forward. The time, energy, focus, and talent that you'll need. You need to invest in that ahead of the growth. That's why it's called investing. Investing is when you take your limited resources and you push them in, anticipating a return on the investment in the future. It's not a purchase. It's not a consumable. You're investing when you bring somebody on to create daylight in front of your business to pull your business forward. You have to invest in training that team, developing that team, dare I say, coaching that team, so you can bring out everybody's best and optimize it, right? So, and you have to be able to invest in your practice, the technology, the space, etc. Dr. Josiah is so critical. It's like at the end of the day, for chiropractic to growth, it takes capital. And here's the thing, is the capital has to grow with the practice. It can't be one day profit, someday profit. We need to be profitable all along and turn and push that money, invest intelligently back into that business.
Absolutely. You hit it on its head. It's like highest paid people, in town. If we're delivering the best product, then isn't the value there? And that's where I think we've been so undercapitalized in our profession, is because we are delivering incredible value and we're doing it at such basement prices, right?
That's exactly
the
right.
value of what we're doing, if we're changing people's lives, and Harvey Lillard could hear again, people can have, babies for the first time, people can walk, people can feel their feet, people have these miracle testimonials for a few dollars. My friend locally owns a company that helps fight insurance claims with overbilling. Guess what, Dr. Franson? He's found the most expensive cost someone's ever been charged for a bandage. What do you think it is?
Oh my gosh, I don't even want to guess. $1,800.
$1,200. $1,200 is his record that he's found that an insurance company has charged one of his clients for a bandage.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so if they're charging $1,200 for a bandage, okay, that's worth $1 maybe. What are we charging for something that has infinitely high more value, and we're charging peanuts for prices?
Right. And guys, when you hear this, that is abuse, right? So that is taking advantage of that is out of integrity. We're not suggesting that at all. We're not talking about increasing. Don't hear us say, when you hear us increase your prices, we're not saying, hey, just for the sake of making more money for you, you need to increase your prices. What I'm going to change your frame on this. You're undercharging. You need to right size your pricing. Okay. So there's a value imbalance. Money follows value. You create value, deliver value, add value, and capture value. There's a balance in that. There's a universal law, and you are out of balance. If you are delivering value, you should be capturing value, which is getting paid, right? So we've got to make sure that we just check ourselves on that. It's like you are literally disturbing a universal law or balance there, right? So this is about right-sizing your charges, right-sizing the cost of your care, right? So because right now you are undercharging, all right? So, all right, Dr. Josiah, let's get after it. Let's talk about marketing. So I love the LTV CAC ratio. I think it's a great set. It's a great framework for people to recognize. It's like, okay, so I'm trying to figure out how much do I spend on marketing, right? So the punchline here is as much as possible, right? So I love the expression, whoever can afford to spend the most money to get a new customer wins, right? So obviously that's implied that you're doing it profitably, but that's the expression. Whoever can afford to pay the most to attract a new customer wins. So that means that you've got to get your LTV CAC ratio right? Your lifetime value, LTV, to CAC, CAC, cost to acquire a customer. You got to get that ratio right. If we're talking about marketing, CAC is the number we want to look at. What does it cost to acquire a customer, right? So what we know to be true is the vast majority of chiropractors are underspending in their marketing. They're underspending in their marketing. The reasoning behind this, in my experience, is they lack the confidence to invest in their marketing. I don't know how to market. I don't know who to market with. I don't know what tactics and strategies to employ. I don't know how to measure my returns on my marketing. I'm unsure what good looks like and sounds like. What should I expect for an ROI, right? So because they lack the information that they need around marketing and they lack the skills they need around marketing, they really, really hold back on the marketing. And your practice, your business is an engine, and that engine has a potential output of horsepower. And every engine, it's very simple. It's a closed environment. You got fuel, air, and spark. right? So fuel, air, and spark together, that's combustion, that produces horsepower. Every engine is rated for a certain expected horsepower output. If you are not putting money into your marketing, what you're doing is you are robbing oxygen from getting into that engine for the combustion, for the spark and the fuel to do its work. And the output would be that horsepower. So think about the money that you invest in your marketing is the air that you're trying to force into the engine to create the biggest explosion, the greatest combustion, to create the greatest output of horsepower. So it's all about airflow. It's all about investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're just like me, it's like, I want to get the most detailed lifetime value, customer acquisition costs. These are basic framework metrics that everyone should know. But I would just say, Dr. Branson, I've been telling chiropractors this for a long time, but they're like, well, how do I calculate LTV? Well, I actually made a whole LTV calculator for you. How do you calculate CAC? That's pretty simple as well. But for most people, they don't even have the data points to get to that point. They don't even have, the EHRs have difficulties, the CRMs, there's some difficulties with that. So I've been trying to teach that for a long time, but I feel like it can be very difficult for people. And, one of my number one sayings I always keep that my grandpa taught me is KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Right. And so, like you just said, the biggest thing that people don't have when they want to scale their practice is certainty and confidence. And so that's really what you need to have when you're investing back into your practice, because it can be scary. There's a risk component to any investment that you have. And you want to try and minimize that risk as possible. And the way that I like to do it is with knowledge and data. And I always say it's like Nancy Pelosi. She's got insider information. Her stock returns are greater than everyone else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how can you have inside information of your practice? If you know the data of your practice, then you're inside trading, because you know exactly how much you can spend on marketing. Specifically, a lot of people say, well, how much are you spending? How much is my neighbor? How much is my friend that I met at the conference spending?
Yeah, that has nothing to do with it.
Exactly. That's the wrong question. You shouldn't ask how much, should you spend? You should ask how much can you spend based on knowing your numbers. And my most basic, keep it simple, stupid formula is this. All you have to do is know your profit margin. Hopefully you know your profit margin at bare minimum. Okay, ideally your true profit margin, not your profit margin after you've done all these different tax strategies to get it as low as possible, but your actual true business profit margin. If you know that number, from most clinics that we work with, is somewhere between 20 and 50%. Okay, most clinics are right in between there. Let's just say for easy math, it's 33%. Baby. Okay, so let's just say we take 100 divided by 33. Okay, that equals 3. That means that's your break even return on ad spend number. So if you spend $1,000 on marketing, you need to make a $3,000 in revenue, and then you have a 33% profit on 3,000, which would also be $1,000 in spend, $1,000 in profit, your break even. So if you just know your profit margin, do 100 divided by that number, that's your break even point. Anything above that is profitability. So if you get 3.1, 3.2, 3.5, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, that's all profitability. So that's where you want to then continue to spend that. Like you just said, if you put $1 into machine and it gives you more than $1 out, how many dollars should you put in the machine?
Yeah.
Unlimited, right? Unlimited.
As many as you can borrow.
As many as you possibly can, yeah. Right? Until you need more people, to help you hold your dollars, or you need a bigger vehicle, you need a bigger space, right? Or you need to expand hours to put more dollars in more frequently, right?
Yes.
And so that's the whole entire premise, is that you need to first and foremost understand that basic framework of what is your return on ad spend break-even points, okay? Track how much you're spending on marketing, track how much revenue you're getting. As long as you're above that amount, then you get to an issue where, am I maximizing my capacity? And so that's right.
All right, so let me hit pause here for a second, because I know that some people are swerving off the road as they're trying to take notes. They're rewinding, listening to the last 30 seconds and being like, oh my gosh, it's like, I don't even know how would I get these numbers? Where are these? I don't know what these numbers mean. I've never heard of that number before. Listen, guys, this is why I know we have at least 75, probably pushing 100 of our TRP docs in Lucro now. This is why we leverage Lucro, guys, because as a coach, I'm data driven. I want to have data-driven conversations, right? So it's like a pilot flying at night. I want the radar. It's like, I don't care what you think, what you feel. It's kind of sort of maybe like that. It's like, we're giving you directions, right? So as a coach, I want data. So I don't want my doctors, my business owners spending all the time toiling, trying to figure out their data, trying to solve. This is where a service like Lucro is just so critical. It's like, give me the numbers, give me the data. Now what that is going to equip you to do is you're going to be a better leader, so that you're going to make data-driven decisions as a business owner. Okay. So if you don't have your data, what you have is drama. Data and drama are inversely proportional. Okay. So data and emotions are inversely proportional. In a high data environment, you have low drama. And when you have low data environment, you have high drama. Okay. So now what you have is you now have a situation where you're highly emotional in all of your decision making. Okay. And here's the insight. Here's what I know to be true. Nobody wants to work for a crazy person. All right. So the people around you are looking at you like, are you kidding? Because you're emotionally all over the place because you lack the data that you need to make decisions. Right. So I appreciate what you guys are doing for chiropractic. I really love the fact that my clients now, when I ask them, they know the data, right? So they can pull their report right up, which is an impressive reporting system, and they can actually give me the answers so that I can tell them what to do. Start doing this, stop doing this, do more of that, do less of that. You need to do more of that. You need to do that differently. You need to do this better, right? This just requires training, right? So the purpose of data is to tell you what to do. That it's not rear view mirror. It's about telling you this is what you need to do now and this is what you need to do next. All right, let's talk about conversions. So I have a intensifying perspective around conversion rate, right? So I hear doctors all the time, oh, I've got an 80% conversion rate, 85% conversion rate, 90% reconversion rate, all this. I'm like, that's the marketplace telling you you need to be charging more. Okay. So guys, listen, there's going to be a nexus between our philosophical orientation around just everybody needs to be adjusted, which is truth, and the economic decision of we need to be able to do this profitably and maximize profit. If this was only a philosophical question, it would be, well, don't charge anybody anything. Just do it for free, right? So just that's philosophically the extreme, right? The other extreme is all I care about is profit. And I will just 5 people a day. I'm just going to charge them $5,000 an adjustment and call it a day, right? So I'm just going to keep pushing it until I'm optimizing for my collection visit average, right? So I'm going to suggest that there's a sweet spot in the middle, Dr. Josiah, where we pull that conversion rate in to be able to say, let's ramp up our prices until we land somewhere around a 70% conversion rate. And that is high, and it drags it up from 30 to 70 because of our purpose and because of our mission, to be honest. If we weren't purpose-driven and mission-driven, it'd be like triple your prices and just take a 30% conversion rate. You could probably double your prices and have a 50% conversion rate. But if you do the math on this, what you'll see is the numbers are extraordinarily different, right? So if you have an 80% conversion rate with a $3,000 product, what's that? $240,000. If you have a 50% conversion rate with a $9,000 product, that's a $450,000 of revenue. And PS, the delta there is enormous, and it's all profit, right? So you're going to drive that profit up by charging more. So you've got to find that sweet spot. If you're converting above 70% and your reconversions are 80, 85, 90%, you need to raise your prices and get that to 70%. The market's telling you they'd pay more.
Yeah, that's great. Value versus price, right? Like we were just talking about earlier. At the end of the day, we want to help as many people as possible, but we also want to, by running a successful business, we're going to be able to help a lot more people.
That's exactly right. So the short term feels like, oh my gosh, what about those 30% of people that don't convert? Well, I'd rather see you running a really successful practice where you were able to reinvest back into the community and you were able to invest in your team and the technology to deliver excellent care. You'd have enough money where you could have a hardship case, scholarship case, so you could actually take care of people that were into hardship. You'll make enough money to be able to do that. So it's ultimately, where's your money is always a heart issue. What are you doing with the money? And if you run a extremely profitable business over time, guess what? You're going to spend net 30, 40, 50 years in practice, right? And not be the person that is smoked and burned out 15, 20 years in practice and you're broke, right? So at that point, who you're helping, especially if your practice fails and you have to close.
Yeah. And so let's say you find that nexus, Dr. Franson, like you're talking about, it's 100% in agreement with finding that X marks the spot, sweet spot in that attribution. Now, okay, let's say it's at 70%. You know, would you rather have 70% of a grape or 70% of a watermelon? And that's where most people really miss the boat. And so the biggest thing I always tell chiropractors and ask them this very simple question, you know, if you had a line of 1,000 people, let's just take new patient appointments, for example. If you had a line of 1,000 people next week waiting to get into your clinic, how many of them could you actually process for your initial consultation day one in your office? Most chiropractors say it takes anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes for a day one appointment in their clinic. Let's say the average office is open 20 hours of open hours a week. Let's just say it takes an hour. Okay. That's 20 a week, you know, that have the potential to process as a day one appointment. 4.3 weeks in a month, that would give us 86 new patients as the potential to process with the same staff, hours, and capacity that you already have. Now, if you ask that same doctor, say, well, how many new patients are you averaging over the last 6 to 12 months? Most of them are going to say 15, 20, 25, maybe 30. Let's just call it 20 for easy math. 20 divided by 86, you're going to get around 20% or so, is the actual percentage of schedule fill. Okay. This is one of the most common stats that they track in all other healthcare industries. Dentists, medical clinics, they all track utilization of their providers, how much of their providers' schedules are being maximized. And it's the number one stat that I think that we're missing in the chiropractic profession. And here's why. Let's say you have a 70% conversion rate. Again, 70% of 20 people a month, okay, or 70% of 86 people a month. Now, whether your schedule is 100% full or 20% full, does your rent change? Does your utility bill change? Does your internet bill change? Does your payroll change? Most all of your expenses do not change, whether you have a 100% full schedule or a 20% full schedule. So going back to attraction, like we were talking about earlier, if you know your LTV, your CAC, or even more simply, if you know 100 divided by your profit margin, what's your break-even point, then you know exactly how much you can spend to fill your schedule. And then you can convert, like I said, and obviously you always want to try and optimize that nexus point like we're talking about. And so to me, that combination of factors that we're just talking about right there, we found with Lucro, the average clinic in the profession should be generating 5 times more revenue than they are. 5 times. So whatever the number was, and you're listening to this right now, whatever your number was last year, or whatever you're tracking for this year, multiply that number by 5. That's most likely the true potential of the clinic that you're in right now.
That's exactly right. And the word is potential. To listen to that, guys, is like, if you have a $500,000 practice right now, first of all, guys, congratulations. That's awesome. It's $500,000 worth of value that you're delivering into your community. You could be a $2.5 million business, okay? Which means you have a $2 million problem to solve. And you have to think about it that way. It's like, if you think about capacity, this business is operating at 20 or 25% of its capacity. So when you're thinking about expansion, adding features, adding services, think about you are operating at 20 to 25% of your capacity right now. So if you approximate your capacity, I like to push for 85%. You should be at 85% capacity so you don't experience overwhelm with your team and they start pumping the brakes. 85% plus is the goal, right? So not 95%, not 105%, right? So because ultimately that's untenable, right? It's unsustainable. So 85% plus, somewhere in that zone, 85 to 90, right? Stay right there in that stretch zone, stay out of that stress zone, right? So that's where you're going to be net over 3 years. That's where you're going to be winning without breaking, right? So I love the concept of capacity. All right. So last one, we got time for one more. We're into delivery and retention. So let's talk about LTV CAC again, but from the other side of that ratio, LTV, lifetime value, right? So when we talk about lifetime value, guys, think about it. Don't try to memorize, understand. Lifetime value. What's the lifetime value of a customer or a patient? So over their lifetime, what does a patient pay the business, right? So LTV, the simple back of the napkin math on this is collection visit average times patient visit average, right? CVA times PVA. This number, obviously, this has to do with two things. How much do we charge per visit? And how many visits do they receive? That's going to get you there, right? So you get a sense of like, what is the lifetime value of a customer, so to speak, right? So when you're doing LTV, looking at that being like, we want to stretch the time that they stay under care. So again, this falls under delivery and retention. Dr. Josiah, the big idea here is to drive greater retention, reduce churn rate, which is the rate at which people are dropping out of care. Because as we say, losing patients is off purpose and bad for business. This is all about two things. It's about educating the patients and delivering value, right? And by delivering value, we mean giving people a better health outcome, but even more importantly, giving them a better health experience throughout the arc of their relationship with you.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit it on both aspects. In our practice, we call it the Disney experience. If you haven't read the book called Selling the Invisible, it's one of my favorite books. It talks about all the little details that you can do in a service-based business. Now, when you go to a store or a retail shop, you buy something, you're walking out with a bag, a product, something that you wear, something that you can see, touch, and feel. When you go to a service-based business, you walk in, you get adjustment, you walk back out. There's nothing to hold tangibly product. So how everyone makes you feel, whether it be the front desk, greeting you by name, the sights, the sounds, the smells, all the interactions that add all up to create incredible experiences. And so that's why it's so important to be on purpose and on mission for your staff, so they can deliver that above and beyond experience. And that's why people are going to say people want to get great results, but you know what they also want is they also want to feel loved. They also want to feel like they're at home when they walk into your place of business, and they want to feel relaxed. They don't want to feel like a traditional medical setting where they're tense and uneasy. So combining that, with amazing quality care, first and foremost, right? We have the greatest healthcare product in the world. How can we surround that with incredible customer service within our clinic, right? To drive the patient visit average as high as possible.
100%. All right, guys, this is where we're going to land this plane. So an on-purpose practice recognizes that chiropractic is a lifestyle success strategy for healthy human beings. Don't limit it to a short-term treatment modality, right? So we do love to help people that are already struggling with their health or already in trouble. It's incredibly common that every person's going to show up in your office and they've got something going on. There's some crisis, symptom, syndrome. There's some type of issue going on with their health, right? So there's some kind of body signal. At the end of the day, guys, what you're faced with is a human race right now that is sick and suffering, right? There's no shortage of new patients in the world, right? They've got you surrounded. They've got us surrounded. Our job is to educate those people, to create value. Create value means change the way people think about their health, their life, right? And chiropractic. So when we change their belief system, and the belief system is like, oh yeah, you're just out of effect. I love what Chestnut says around this, that sickness just comes from bad germs, bad genes, and bad luck, versus the truth, which is bad behavior, right? So if you educate the patients, teach them the chiropractic principle, shift their paradigm from outside in to inside out, and make sure that they see that chiropractic is a lifestyle success strategy for healthy human beings. When you shift that belief system, you drive that culture, you deliver great value through their experience and their outcomes, Dr. Josiah, they'll never leave you. And you have walked that out and lived that out, man. And I appreciate you that now Lucro is helping these doctors do the same. Bro, we appreciate you. Thank you for helping us help more people, bro. Appreciate you.
Amen, amen, and amen. That's all I got to say to that.
Preach. All right, guys. Have a great week. Have a remarkable week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors.